My dear white friends, today I'm asking you to make an intentional commitment to end racism. The United Church of Canada has affirmed our commitment to bring racism to an end in our church, in our homes, community, and nation. It is time for each one of us to personally and intentionally do everything in our power to promote the overall well-being of all people, irrespective of the color of their skin or race. Let us make racism part of our past and not a part of our future together. It is past time for the dismantling of systemic racism found in the very fiber and fabric of our society. Consider the ways that you can put love into action as a means of counteracting racism. Remember that love in the Christian faith is more than an emotion, it is an act of will. When we love, we choose the highest good for those we love. This love is both transformative and revolutionary. When you love, you cannot accept it when another person is discriminated against or treated unkindly because of the color of their skin. When you love, you treat every person with dignity, as all people are created in the image of God. Racism is totally incompatible with the Christian faith. Confronting racism is an act of love. Love moves us not to turn a blind eye to racism when we see it. When we love, we make it an awkward experience for the person who is speaking racist language or showing racist behavior. When we love, we make it clear that jokes about race or unkind attitudes or actions are neither humorous nor beneficial for anyone in our society. Racism must come to an end if we are to be a people who love. If this is to be done, then we have a very important role to play. Why? Because racism is not caused by the racialized people. When I say racism exists, I'm not calling white people racist. I am, however, reminding you that in one way or another, you benefit from the racist systems which undergird much of the Canadian society. Racism is the fruit of white privilege and white entitlement. White privilege and white entitlement are not only about those people who wear hooded robes, burn crosses, or scream the N-word, or spout racial hate. White entitlement is also about the ways in which white people are valued more than the non-white people in society today. To be clear, I'm not making a moral judgment about you by saying that our country is racist. We can see racism in the society in which we live and in the ways non-white people are treated. We see it in the ways that indigenous peoples are sometimes spoken about in demeaning terms. It is seen when the worst is automatically assumed when we see indigenous youth or for example, just hanging around on the streets. In many parts of our country, black people are most likely to be stopped and carded by the police. My own son has had the experience of being stopped by the police to explain why he was waiting to take public transportation. He was on his way home from school and was on the LRT station in Edmonton with two of his white friends who attended the same college with him. His friends, white, but he was reported to me that the police came up to him and him alone and asked him for his identification and questioned him about being at the LRT station. They did not ask any of his friends. As a father, I felt impotent and helpless to protect my son. It is painful as a father that he and my other son will continue to face these types of experiences simply because of the color of their skin. Let us be honest, racism is also seen in the church. A black female colleague, for example, told me recently that a congregation member refused to shake her hand because he did not want a black person as his minister. I've spoken elsewhere of my own experience of racist words spoken to me in the church. You see, the experiences are real, and yet all too often they are ignored or swept aside when we racialized people speak about them. Our starting point, my friends, can no longer be for persons like me to prove the existence of racism. The starting point for us must be that racism exists, and we are seeking to, in the words of the late Dr. Martin Luther King, create a beloved community where all persons are respected for the content of their character and not the color of their skin nor their ethnicity. Last year, our United Church of Canada affirmed clearly that Black lives matter. Of course, all lives matter, but it is the Black lives that pay the price for anti-Black racism. Really, it is offensive for people to suggest that racism is not as bad in Canada as it is with our neighbors to the south. It is the heights of willful ignorance, I believe, for anyone to suggest that systemic racism does not exist in our country. These statements do not help Black people, and they certainly do not help us to confront the truth of our country. We are past the time for easy answers and quick fixes. The way forward will require us to have awkward and painful conversations. Neither you nor I can avoid it. We who are Black, Asian, Indigenous, Latino, and non-white peoples will continue to fight against racism. Our task is to oppose racism, but only you can end it. For the sake of my Black sons and other non-white young people in this land, I'm asking you to make this country a place where they and your children will not be judged by the color of their skin, but instead by the quality of their character. One love. I am Paul Douglas Walfall.